sports, at least in the world of baseball, are close to being back, close to being very, very normal. And I don't know if a lot of you are paying as close of attention to this as I am, but in Arizona and Florida, spring training is underway with pitchers and catchers reporting. And with pitchers and catchers reporting and a 162-game schedule on tap, we are close, I believe, to getting back to as close to 100% normalcy as we possibly could be in terms of where we are headed in the larger universe of sports. And if that happens, I think one of the first questions that's going to be out there is, will people go to sporting events again in the same numbers? And if they do, will they, how long will it take to get back to normal? And look, the data is out there. I saw the reports that everybody who's going to want a COVID vaccine is going to be able to get it by the end of July, regardless of your age. And if you are older, and that's obviously who has been the most at risk of serious complications from COVID, if you are older, then you hopefully have already had access to the vaccine. Hopefully, everybody who is elderly, nursing homes, everybody else is getting vaccinated. And if that occurs, then the overall death rate, which has begun to decline precipitously already, overall hospitalization rates, overall number of positive cases, all of that has just fallen off a cliff, right? There were big numbers that started in November and kind of climbed, and we're back down basically to summer levels now in terms of people who are having issues with COVID, in terms of hospitalizations, all that stuff. I think we're back down around 60,000 people in the entire country are hospitalized right now with COVID. And so, knock on wood, you would hope with over 50 million people having received at least their first vaccination, and many of those vaccinations having gone to people who are elderly or of advanced age and having the most danger, that basically the bottom is going to fall out of any sort of danger and everything can open back up in short order. I put up a poll yesterday. My audience is not 100% representative of the larger population. I never claim that it is. But I asked you guys yesterday on Twitter, I said, hey, what percentage of you are believe that schools should be open? Basically, I'll read you the exact question that I put up, and I was kind of blown away, even with the popularity of my audience, even with people having a lot of opinions that sometimes overlap. I said, hey, should all public schools in this country be reopened for in-person classroom instruction? And 95% of you said yes. That's, by the way, the same opinion that the CDC has. That's the same thing that all the pediatricians out there are saying. So over 50,000 of you, I think, ended up voting in that poll. And the massive numbers, by huge numbers, you guys believe that that public school classrooms should be all open back up. But larger context with that is this question: when all of those schools open back up, do you actually believe, as you kind of shake it down, do you believe that people are going to return to sporting events in the same numbers? Or have we entered into an era where people have upset their overall normal lives and they are not going to go back to baseball and basketball games, football games even as well, in the same numbers? And what I mean by that is, if you've watched on television and looked at the overall ratings numbers, I don't think there's any doubt that when sports shut down in March, April, May, June, July, a lot of people out there over that 4-month period found other ways to spend their time. Maybe you watch Netflix, maybe you watch Disney Plus, maybe you just started hiking, maybe you were working out more, whatever your personal habits in your life might have become. I wonder, after an entire year, whether Major League Baseball fans are going to come back in the same manner that we were used to beforehand. Or are people going to have gotten used to moving on to other things in their life, and they're not going to go back to games in the same way in person? It's a massive question because there's really not a lot of precedent for it. We've never had, to my knowledge, in our lives, certainly, any sport that has just basically said, hey, we're not going to have fans for an entire year, and then they try to come back and flip the switch and return to normalcy. And the NBA and hockey aren't great examples because their season got shut down near the end of it back in March of last year. But Major League Baseball went an entire year without fans present anywhere other than in the playoffs down in Texas. So what's going to happen with people wanting to go watch spring training games? What's going to happen as the hodgepodge of rules kind of begin in terms of full stadiums? And then if we're correct and the data reflects that everybody who's going to want a vaccine is going to have access to one by the end of July, that means there'd be a lot of baseball season, theoretically, much of July and maybe also August, where fans in the stands can be back to normalcy in many ways by the summer. Are people going to go back in massive numbers? Are things going to be different? I think it is an utterly fascinating question and a massive one for sports going forward.